Welcome back again for another exciting, well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but possibly informative and interesting episode of Whatcha Readin', where I answer the question people ask me all the time, hey, Chuck, what are you reading? You know, you write a lot, but what are you reading? For enjoyment, for information, for research, whatever. So I'll share a few here, and we'll start with a comic book project. Someone recommended, and I'd like to thank you, recommended I read The End, a one-shot Punisher comic written by Garth Ennis and drawn by Richard Corben. This thing's like, oh my gosh, it's almost 20 years old now. So I'm not sure how I missed it because I'm a big Rich Corben fan. I've been a fan of Corben's ever since he worked in the underground comics that you had to go to head shops to buy back in the 70s. He did my first exposure to him was a comic called Rolf, and it was set in a post-nuclear world about a mutated sentient German Shepherd. Somehow was a sort of mix between a dog and a human. Don't ask any questions. And it simply blew me away. Corben is not acknowledged, I don't think, as the incredible storyteller that he was. What really impressed me about Rolf, and it was this, cheesy little pulp paper, black and white, basically graphic novel. It was like, I believe it was like 32 pages long. It took up the entire contents of this underground comic. And what really impressed me was how cinematic the storytelling was, and the number of panels, because it's a sentient dog. He doesn't talk. The number of panels and pages which were told without captions or dialogue, and I became a dedicated Richard Corben fan from that point on. And he's the perfect match for Garth Ennis, and particularly what Garth Ennis wants to achieve here with Punisher: The End. It basically tells the story of how, one possible story of how Frank Castle dies. And it's probably the bleakest story I have ever read. Now, Corben did a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff, which makes him perfect choice for this project. And generally bleak, humorless, not fun, not feel-good stories. But Ennis cranks it up to 11. Seriously, this thing reads, it makes Cormac McCarthy's The Road seem like a Doris Day movie. I won't spoil the plot for you, but basically Frank is many years in the future, and Frank is serving time in Sing Sing. He's a life imprisonment, solitary confinement, because he's apparently killed 36 convicts before they realized what was going on, that it was a mistake to let Frank Castle loose in a facility filled with felons. And he's been locked away in solitary, and now a nuclear war is imminent. Like 30 to 60 minutes away. It's going to happen. And the guards at Sing Sing are under orders to exterminate all of the prisoners because they don't want them around in a post-nuclear war. In addition to that, there is a bomb shelter, a radiation-proof bomb shelter underneath Sing Sing. And you kind of know what happens because it's Frank Castle. Frank Castle ends up surviving. He doesn't get exterminated. He ends up surviving and emerging 1 year later into this nightmare world where, civilization has been destroyed. Not only that, it seems like every living thing on the planet has been destroyed. But this is Frank Castle, and he's going to find the people responsible. He feels this is the greatest crime ever perpetrated in the history of crime, and he's going to find the guys that did it. And like I said, I won't tell you any more about the plot, except to say it just bleak, but wonderfully told. Compulsively readable. Ennis combined Ennis's skill at this kind of story, combined with Corben's excellent storytelling style, just makes for a fantastic read. It is a page turner. You can't look away from this thing. And I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time with it. My only complaint, and this is a complaint I have about a lot of Ennis work, is he really needed a caption to tell you that a year had passed. He mentions it later in dialogue. It's like on the second page of the second act of the story. It's mentioned in passing that a year has passed. We really needed to know that from the beginning of the second act of the story. And I've noticed this in Ennis's work that he eschews those kind of captions. The meanwhile back at the ranch kind of informative caption. And I don't like them either. But there's a way to do it. There's a way to work it into the story a little earlier to let the reader know. And like I said, I've seen this a lot in Ennis stories where he doesn't want to do, meanwhile back at the ranch. And like I said, I can't blame him. But it's kind of necessary, especially if you're going to jump ahead in time, as this story did. So that's my only complaint. I mean, once I figured it out, I was fine. I was, back to the races on the story. But if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And whoever recommended it to me, thank you very, very much, because somehow I missed this one. And I really, really dug it. But don't read it before bedtime, or you're going to have weird dreams. I was down in Sarasota, which is south of where I live, on a little business trip. And I stopped by. Sarasota's kind of a funky little town. It's a beautiful. It's probably the prettiest city in Florida. And it's got like a funky retail district. And there was a used bookstore there. So I was in town. I stopped in, and they had a near complete collection of Dirty Harry paperbacks in really unread condition. Probably former store stock or something. And I've always been curious about these novels, and the price was really good. I checked on my phone on eBay, and I was like, man, this is good price for these books in this condition. So I bought all of them. And the cashier was very nice. She said that she hoped they made my day. And I've always been curious about these novels, what was going on. So I picked out number 3 and read it. They're written by Dane Hartman. I don't know, it's obvious pseudonym. I don't know if that was a house name. These were published by Warner Books. And I enjoyed it. I will read the rest. And what I liked about it was I've always been a big Dirty Harry fan. But what I liked about it was more like the first movie than the movies that followed. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark, I consider there's only one Dirty Harry movie. Like, there's only one Indiana Jones movie for me. Sequels are unworthy. Every Dirty Harry sequel is unworthy. They just don't match up to the first film. They alter the character. They soften it. And some of them are just plain awful. I mean, the Deadpool is just one of the worst movies ever made. It's certainly Clint Eastwood's worst movie ever made. It's like a bad episode of McCloud. But I really liked the book because it stayed more to the tone and tenure and characterization of the first movie. In fact, it was better than any of the sequels. This would have made an excellent sequel. And it has Harry. I mean, come on, there's a formula here. Harry's let loose against a team of sex traffickers operating out of Berkeley, where they're abducting college girls and basically, breaking them and importing them to foreign buyers. And, yeah, seedy. They all deserve to die, and they all do, strangely. And as a subplot, kind of a complication for things, there's a black nationalist group, which was introduced in The Enforcer. If you've seen The Enforcer, you remember the character Big Ed Mohammed, and he has this black African nationalist group, and it's brought back to the novel. And the novels very much pay attention to the continuity of the movies, which is cool. And this sex trafficking group are trying to pin their various murders they've committed on this black nationalist group in order to draw the investigation away from them. But Harry knows Big Ed, and he knows he would never be involved in anything like this. So he's suspicious from the beginning. But it's, action-packed,
lots of shoot 'em up, lots of punch ups. My only problem with it is they delve a little too much into the sex stuff, and some of the action scenes go on a little long. But I imagine, this is a men's paperback from the 70s, early 80s. That's pretty much a prerequisite. If you were going to write one of these, your editor was telling you, put the violence and sex forward as much as possible. And because that's what, these he-men want to read. But it's enjoyable. I will read some of the others, if not all of them. Okay. If you haven't checked it out, I got my own He-Man novel out there, Siege of the Black Citadel. It's well received. It's selling well. People seem to like it, which I've heard a lot of good, kind words about it. I have completed a second and a third novel. They are in the pipeline. Should be available soon. I saw cover roughs for the cover for the second book, and looks really cool. And that's about it. Check it out on Amazon or go to Archaven Comics. If you go to Archaven Comics, you will get a free ebook along with the paperback, and I'll provide links below. That's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and I'll tell you more about